video today so we can get some birds. All right. So take your classic martial art, put yourself in some kind of stance, right? And then you go out into your fighting stance. You have a ready stance, a front stance. Make poses, right? So I want to talk about this arrow step and why it's a peeve of mine. So I started with the Lung Ting Wing Tsun system in the 1990s, and we were coming out of the 80s and the karate baggage. So karate is really good, but you know, karate was the thing that everyone tried to sell. So your con artists try to, just like it happens to MMA now. So in the 80s, karate was known for this front bow stance and this back arrow stance. And I don't know how well I'm doing them, but we had a joke that Lung Ting, the professor, had a joke. Unless I'm crazy, tell me if I'm crazy down there. Since when does the arrow shoot the bow? So, since when does the back arrow stance shoot the front bow stance? So, we were not allowed to use the arrow step, period. That's the 1990s AWTO standard. You do not call it the arrow step. So we were using the newly imported Latsao teaching sections. So we were using the posture pull. Right? So we're using our pure Wing Tsun terms. You have your Wing Tsun 45 and 90 degree turn. And if someone comes at you and you turn into 90 degrees, you're in our character 1 stance, you're in our front facing stance, because the enemy's there now. And then we posture pull to chase them. Or we do a piercing step. Piercing step. No arrow step was allowed to be called. Now I see now that Sifu Richter calls it an arrow step, and a lot of people after the 1990s slowly surrendered to the base common words that you have to use with these Americans. It makes me sad. So that's why I'm so hard on that arrow step, right? But let's look at it. I call it martial art decay. You know that. It's what I'll be famous for long after I'm gone. This idea that all martial arts decay because we're human. And the art is a romantic ideal, and maybe somebody did it once. We're trying to achieve that. Here comes an airplane. Must be true. We have our Sifu Evan Bostepe. We call him Dai Sifu because he is the one eldest Sifu. And he's a Sijo now. He has his own organization, Evan Bostepe Martial Arts System. And I'm from the old Lung Ting Bostepe era, the American Wing Tsun organization, AWTO era. That's what we're talking about here. Those standards, right? And we became EBMOS, and we're more Lung Ting than Lung Ting, right? That's our motto. It's my motto, right? So Sifu came around. He said, "Look, here's all our mottos. It's supposed to be like this. Let's make it better than he can make it." He's retired now, right? So it's up to his people to be better than he did. That's to prevent martial art decay. So what if it was always a front bow stance, right, that propelled you into the back arrow stance? I don't know. Is there someone old enough to remember that's willing to admit it, right? But then what would happen in our martial art decay theory? It's the front bow stance, so I must go to the front with it. And it is the back arrow stance, so I must go to the back with it. And then we turn it into cat stance or something, right? Because it made more sense to step back like a cat. Rear leg, front leg of the cat, right? Ever been scratched by a cat's rear legs? I digress. So that could easily happen. I'm just proposing it as an analogy based on my understanding of martial art decay. So that makes much more sense. You're talking shit over here. I step into my front bow. I'm ready to project, and the person comes at me, and I launch this arrow. Launch this arrow. Front bow, back arrow stance, and I fight with the back arrow stance so I can kick. They come at me, I'm gonna draw my bow, arrow. I draw a bow with this back leg and I arrow right away. I don't have to come all the way back here. These are the universal movements. I don't know what the terms are. So we're not allowed to call it arrow step. And then our Wing Tsun, inner rotation, is our bow, and we have our piercing step, right? And I'll turn to draw the bow, and I can pierce with either leg here. That was the leg I just pierced with. Draw the bow, I can pierce with that leg too. All right, either leg. Truck going by. Bam. So there's my back arrow stance. My bow is stored right in there. You see it? Because of my adduction. So I have a bow and arrow stance.